Okay, this is somebody actually asked me to ask this question, and it's not inappropriate, but I think it's really appropriate, and we should talk about this. So a lot of time we have heard that it's a stereotype that Indian man can satisfy in bed, and I completely understand if you don't want to answer this, or you can just simply say. Hey, welcome everyone. So today we have two beautiful ladies among us, and first of all, welcome to a new episode of Hamara Karwan. And give a round of applause, or don't give applause because it's YouTube, to two lovely ladies out here. I introduce you to Miss Aishwarya right here, and hey Aishwarya, say hi. No, that's not Aishwarya. That's Aishwarya. Yeah. She's a content creator, and we will link her Instagram in the description, and you might see it here in the I button. So she creates lots of beauty and beauty related content, and you can check out. She has a blog and everything. She's really good at her stuff. And the other beautiful lady out here, her name is Priya. Welcome, Priya, and you can wave now.
Hello.
That's Priya, and she is a business analyst, and she's been doing. She's living in New York for 12 years now, right? So she's originally from India, and she's living in New York for 12 years now, and she also run her own podcast. So if you guys want to check it out, I will link that down in the description as well. Just a quick overview, what this video is all about. We will be talking a lot about relationships, specifically for Indian men, and the two different perspectives. So Aishwarya, although she looked like an Indian, she is kind of Indian. Her family is from India, but she's born and raised in America. And Priya, on the other hand, she is from India, but she's living in New York all these 12 years, or
I'm in around East Coast area, but then I did my undergrad and my grad school here. So somewhere around like since I was 18, I moved to States.
All right. So for a very long time around the East Coast. So anyone want to come and say hi? So the idea is we want to see different perspective about the dating world, right? And as you all know, the familiar face, Mr. Ketan Tiwari, he's like the co-host with me. So without further ado, we will keep this episode short and crispy. We will shoot direct questions in them and see how the ladies tackle them. All right. So Mr. Ketan, the stage is yours, and go ahead.
Okay, so hi Aishwarya, hi Priya, and my first question for all of you. Aishwarya will begin with you, okay?
Sure.
And my first question: why do you think is dating really a complication, especially for Indian men? Or why is it easier for American men to date as comparison to a normal Indian person?
I think that has a lot to do with dating as a concept in general. I feel like that's very much well accepted in the Western culture, and that's popularized a lot. I mean, I know that we see a lot of ads for dating apps, and that's just very popular, and that's just a thing that a lot of people in America grow up with. I grew up here. I just want to clarify. I was born in India, and I moved here when I was like 2 years old. So I basically grew up here. I don't really know a lot about growing up in India, so I know it's a very different perspective. But I can say for growing up in America, I think dating is just a much more like widely known and accepted concept. Like if I ever talk to my parents about dating, they wouldn't even get it. Like they don't even understand what dating is. So I think the reason why I think there might be more of a complication, or if it's like more complicated for Indian men in general to date, is because it's just not widely talked about, and it's not something that like we even talk about within families. Even here, like me growing up with my parents here, like abroad in the U.S., it's still not something we talk about openly. So I think that's why.
Okay, well, that's a great point of view. Now coming to you, please.
I think just going off on Aishwarya's point, right? So irrespective of whether her parents actually moved to States and they had kind of an idea on how the Western culture operates. For me, like say for instance, my parents are Indian living in India. I believe that as a generation, right, maybe people from, say, a generation after us will not really face this scenario of a dating situation. I think all of us sort of, I know Aishwarya don't want to disclose anybody's age, but she's a little younger than us. But I'm just saying that, it's the 90s or millennial, the kids who were born, 2000-ish. It's a little different for us, but I believe a decade after us, I think parents will be a little bit more open-minded about this concept, is what I think. As in when, you guys decide, as in when we have kids or something, I'm sure we'll be better equipped to handle these questions.
Right.
Yeah, we hope so.
So we are paving road for the future generation. So you guys can thank us later. All right. So second question. Let's start with Priya this time. Okay, this is the most common question, and every guy want to know the answer for this one. What are some common mistakes that men make or men do that the girls hate? Like when you're dating, like in the courtship phase, initially when you're dating someone, what are some red flags or some things that you just hate? And of course, it's individual to the person, but what are the general traits?
Yeah. First of all, I would say that even if you see red flags, a lot of times you could be so innocent yourself that you will not really get it in the first go. And sometimes emotions take over the aspect of our emotional intelligence. So, but that being said, I would say that certain things that I have now observed, which I honestly would not really used to consider as red flags, is somebody always being on their phone, like if they're out with you. I just think that it's a little disrespectful. I've noticed that not like that, but if you guys are out on a date, I mean, first date itself, when they're about to pass time, it's like 9 p.m. All right, this is not going well or something, we gotta go. So, or just in general, during the courtship phase itself, I've noticed guys do that. And then, social media interaction with other females, because just the way the world is now, right? Your interaction with the virtual medium, anybody who's dating you is going to look at that. So unless that person you have introduced the person that you're dating with to that person, a female or a male, that person is always going to objections as to what the context is in terms of why they are really, following their page or liking their stuff. So I think that those are two, recent red flags that I would think that are very much part of our technology space, like space, that we, I think guys can do better at that. I think this will really help them to build connection.
All right. So spending too much time on their phones, and the second, checking out other people's page. Yes. All right. All right. We'll take your point and perspective. What about you, Aishwarya? What do you think?
So I definitely agree with Priya on being on your phone all the time. I think especially, I don't know if this applies even in India, but in Western culture, if you're out with somebody, even if you're not even dating, even with a friend and they're constantly on their phone, that's generally seen as disrespectful. You're here to spend time with me, notice me. So I definitely agree with her on that. I think another thing that I personally see as a red flag is just this is just a pet peeve of mine. I hate people who are late. So, and if they don't give you the heads up at all, they just stroll in 30, 40 minutes, it's not a big deal. And I'm if this person came on time, you should respect their time and show up at that time. And I understand life happens and sometimes you have an emergency, but it's your responsibility to let that person know. And I think sometimes people just it's kind of it kind of happens where people take other people for granted. So they're oh, it doesn't matter if I'm 30 minutes late, they're still going to be there. But I still think it's important to always remember and appreciate a person's time and respect their time. And so for me, that's a big thing, just being punctual and being on time. I'm sometimes late to things. No, I'm nowhere near perfect, but I always let people know and give them the heads up. And I think another thing, just in general, this is just super generic, but when a guy says he's going to do something, he should follow through with it. So if he tells you I'm going to call you tonight and he doesn't call you, to me, that's an issue. And I feel this kind of applies further along when you're dating, maybe 3 months in, 4 months in. And if he's if it keeps happening where he tells you he's going to do something and he doesn't do it, that to me is a red flag, because it's it's a pattern in behavior and it's very hard to change patterns. So I just think that if you're gonna say you're gonna do something, you should do it. So I just go by people's words, and I think that's something that's important.
Right. So you walk the talk, and second, and that's a big thing. I mean, I'm not pointing at anyone, but I've seen a lot of Indian men. Indian people in general. They do that. Like, they show up late, and I understand sometimes it happens because people have things to do. People have stuff to take care. But yeah, that happens a lot. I mean, I haven't seen that in American culture. If you guys are familiar with it, they are very much punctual to time. It happens with them. But especially in India, it's kind of a norm. Like if somebody invited to your place at 7, it's completely okay to reach there at like 9, and then 2 hours later is nothing. It's like, hey, what did I do? Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway,
DST does not apply to dating.
Yeah, that's in general. All right.
It's actually saying it, like if you come late, then you're the most important person. If you are important, you have to come late.
I've heard that too.
Anyway, moving on to the next question, Mr. Ketan.
Okay, so with so much advancement in technology, where you can simply order a pizza by swiping your phone, you can simply do it with your life partner too, right? A potential partner, a date. So do you really think dating apps have made this whole scenario a little bit easy or complicated?
You want to go, Aishwarya?
Okay. So I think it really depends on your attitude, right? And what you're looking for. And like what your intentions are with it. There are some people who are strictly on apps just for the casual purpose, which is fine, no disrespect to them.
Is dating really easier after introduction of dating apps?
Is it easier? So I personally feel like it does make it easier because I feel like in this time and age, for whatever reason, people don't meet naturally anymore, unless it's like through a friend and, that kind of thing. So I think it kind of just opens up the horizons and, like it may be somebody who's not in the same neighborhood as you. It may be someone who's in a different state. And it really depends on what your preferences are. But I think it really helps to broaden the spectrum of like the eligible people that you could date. So I think it actually does make it a little bit easier because you have a lot more people to choose from.
All right, Priya.
I personally, I agree to that because we don't really have a broad net of people or connections anymore. Like, say for instance, when again I'm talking about, say we were talking about our parents, maybe our parents back home in India before the whole technology invasion. They would talk to their neighbors a lot more. So they would know their neighbors' kids. They would know the kids, like people in the same neighborhood. Or if you go to a marriage, with the social advent and technology, I don't think we even want to, people get excited, oh, we have to go to a marriage just to meet people. So, all these little innocent places to meet people, that's no longer the case. And that's why, to what Aishwarya mentioned, that it's important to have these online dating tools. But I am a little skeptical about it because I think that just to her point that it's, even if somebody will tell you that they are looking for a relationship, sometimes you really have to filter it through as well.
Right.
Like there are people who write on their profile need a relationship, but when you actually meet them, it's far from what they really are looking for, or they are looking for that, but they're not very serious about it. So it's a lot of trial and error as well. But it just I think it's definitely for the strong-hearted, I feel. This dating scenario, okay, your question.
Right. That's very well said. And my next question is actually based on this particular question. So, like you said, definitely dating apps have made dating word easier because you can meet somebody. If you're in America, you can meet someone in a different state or a whole different country. But do you think like a personal touch, like a human interaction, the thing that you are talking about, that's missing? Second is, sometimes you find what do you call that? I'm missing out the term that they use. It's like they're pretending to be someone. Catfishing. Sorry. A lot of people do catfishing on that. What's your take on that? And another thing is, so like you said, sometimes people wrote, hey, I'm a wanderlust. I love doing photography and I'm looking for a serious relationship and this is who I am. The guy looks amazing on a profile. When you meet him, he might be a douchebag. So, pardon my strong language, but yes, I intend to say douchebag. Um, so, what's your take on that? Like, how would you go ahead? So, let's say you swipe right, right? You want to go on a date with that guy to see how things are going, if he's right for you or not, for whatever reason, for casual or for relationship. How do you filter out whether whatever he's saying, whatever he's showing, is he real you, is he real him, or is he just faking it? Aishwarya, you go.
Oh, okay. So I think, like Priya said, it's a lot of trial and error, right? So there are obviously going to be dates that you go on that are just bad, like just train wrecks, and they're not the person that you think they are. And I know sometimes, like in the moment, it feels like it's a waste of time and you're really discouraged. But I think it's all like a learning. You know, it's just like a learning point in your life, and I think it's just a lesson to be learned. So I don't necessarily think like those situations happening. Yeah, it's bad and it sucks when it does happen, but I think it allows you to understand that you need to be more aware and you need to be kind of like more receptive and like more understanding that these kinds of things happen. Like there are going to be people who are going to pretend to be somebody they're not. Like I think when the first time, even me personally, when I first went to dating apps, like you think everyone's exactly what they say on their profile, and sometimes they're not, and that's just how life is. Not everybody's gonna like put themselves down to be the perfect little resume. And when you meet them, they're a train wreck. But you know, it's definitely trial and error, like Priya said. It's just one of those things that's part of life and you kind of have to deal with. I don't think there's any person who's had a bad date, and if they have, I would love to meet them. So that's my perspective.
All right. Priya, what's your take on this?
I think, Aishwarya, you want to know about a bad date experience? I can tell one that.
Go ahead.
A cautionary tale, because you mentioned about catfishing and all, right? So what I tend to do is that if I have to swipe right, I always make sure that I know where that person works. It may not be true, but it's better than somebody not saying anything where they work at. If they say I'm an assistant professor at so and so place, at least I know I have some reference on, this person is working and has, comes from a certain professional background. It did happen to me on the page. Everything looked fine. This guy wanted a relationship and all. But then when I went for the date, I could not find the place immediately where he wanted me to meet. And I was coming all the way from Queens just to see this person, like a little bit late in the night. And he was not very happy that I could not find it as soon as I should have. Anyways, the date started, and then I realized that it's not going how it's supposed to go. So one thing I learned from that experience is that I used to always think that you need to wait for the guy to end it, but you can actually end the date on your own too. Like, so one of the cues what happens on these dating scenarios is that the guy's going to be like, oh, well, I have so-and-so assignment that I need to finish, or I have an early morning tomorrow. So that's a cue that this date is going it's time to go. So within half an hour, I think we both realize what's going on. And what I learned from that experience is that I don't need to wait for the guy to make a decision. If I realize that things are not going fine, I'm equally not like entitled, but I can also say I have an early morning tomorrow. So yeah.
So next time if anybody hear the phrase "I have an early morning tomorrow" from her, you know what's going on. She's not happy with you, and you need to try hard. Anyway, moving on to the next question, Mr. Ketan.
Okay. So, what's your take on casual dating and one night stands? What do you think men really think about it when they are given a chance like, okay, I'm not going to do this whole topic?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I actually dated somebody who was looking for something casual, but then I think as I started seeing the person, they took that piece out from the dating profile. I would not really want to go in that route again, partially for the reason because as females, and again it depends, you do get your feelings involved, and I think for that person as well, it's possible that to your question, right, sometimes it's not as black and white as somebody saying casual relationship, and even the guy himself is going to feel that way 2 months from now. Sometimes guys change their opinion too. We're all humans, we change. But this is my personal take to it. I think I'd rather like a guy who's straightforward on what he wants than a guy who says, "Oh, I want something," and then but has all the tendencies of a guy who wants a casual relationship. Because I have dated, I mean, not necessarily like completely, but I would say that I've been in a scenario like that. So I think it's good to be upfront and honest to do it. So I don't think it's that bad of a deal to say that on the first day.
Okay, sorry for the interruption. Somebody has to, really check on their mic. Oh, about the casual dating, yeah. What's your take on like casual dating? Or sorry, go ahead.
So, okay, my take on casual dating. So honestly, I think there's a time and place for it. I'm not opposed to it. I know many people who just go on dates just for the sake of dating and like for their own experience. I feel like I don't have anything against it, and I think everyone has a period in their life where they're just experimenting, so I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
Okay, very well. So, so what she said about like catching feelings, in the process, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's definitely prone to happen to both males and females. I think, for whatever reason, I feel like males have a lot more of an easier time to compartmentalize it. So if it's just a casual thing, they know it's a casual thing. I think girls, I just feel like because we're always raised to care for other people, I think that like we're kind of more likely to get caught into feelings and just like getting super attached when it's a casual thing. I think it's hard. It's kind of just human intuition. Sometimes it happens. I feel like in situations where it is casual dating, it's very important to have open conversation with that person and just make sure you both are on the same page, and just lay out your terms and just leave it at that. And if at any point in time you want to like pull out from it, you pull out from it. And that's that.
All right. But by the way, all the guys out there, so she said that it's very easy for the guys to process it. I'm with you, brother. I know the pain. Anyway, jokes apart. Let's move on to the next question. Okay, this is somebody actually asked me to ask this question, and it's not inappropriate, but I think it's really appropriate, and we should talk about this. So a lot of time we have heard that it's a stereotype that Indian men can satisfy in bed, and I completely understand if you don't want to answer this, or you can just simply say I'm not comfortable talking to it. But what's your take on this? Like, is it just a stereotypical thing, or is it something that they really need to work on, or something, or what is it?
I think it's a stereotypical thing. So I know that for even Asian males, they talk about them being small.
Yeah.
And I'm just putting it out there. Size doesn't matter. It's about your skill. Just saying. So I just feel like it's a stereotype, and I mean every group has them, and I feel like it sucks because I think that it does impact some males, and they get joked about it and things like that, and it's really unfortunate, and it's not fair at all. So I don't think that it's true, and it's very unfortunate that stereotype exists, and I really hope that girls don't just buy into that stereotype.
Yeah. All right.
No, it's yeah. No, I think it just I hope that going forward there will be more. Again, I'm taking a different route to this question. I hope that there will be more marketing campaigns in this. I mean, I'm talking specifically in Western countries, like say for instance, whether it's a Hollywood like in media, in ads, and in movies, where like how Aishwarya mentioned that specifically not just like South Asian men, but Asian men in general are presented a certain way. So case for matter, I would say there is this actor in Henry Golding. He was in this movie called Crazy Rich Asians.
Right.
And he's
sorry.
No. So what I'm saying is that he's a British Asian descent actor. And usually like how the stereotypical perception is that, okay, that person is going to be just a little bit geeky, and you cannot really cast an Asian descent actor as a mainstream actor
Right.
and consider that person as desirable. So I think all this is a lot to do with the marketing gimmicks. And I hope that, whether through podcasts, social media, ads, YouTubers, they try to change these perception surrounding, and if we say specifically in regards to Indian men, and what they have to offer, just in general.
Very well said. So, like they both have concluded it has nothing to do with the size. It's all about like how you perform, your skill set, and another
Okay,
thing
so
is
Priya, why do you think such marketing gimmicks were needed at first place?
And like you said, how to like marketing.
Okay,
Can you explain a little bit?
No, I just like you mentioned, like there was a certain marketing gimmicks which were presented in the Western side regarding South Asian and Asian people. So, what do you think is the sole base of creating those marketing gimmicks? That I want to understand.
I think it's just it's a stereotypical perception that we all deal with, or somebody who is American but of Indian descent. And again, I'll keep it strictly to Indians for that matter. It's like girls, like Indian girls, are supposed to be a certain way too. And again, I'm talking specifically in regards to Western media. So it's they have supposed to be, more nerdy, more studious. There is no concept of self-expression. I feel that at least in Indian media it's changing, but I somewhere feel that in Western media that happens to girls of Indian descent as well. Like they are presented a certain way. I believe that's just. I don't know what's the best way to change it, but I feel representation is the best way to change it. I think it's the fact that we have a Priyanka Chopra who's Indian, who's now making waves. We have a Mindy Kaling who's of Indian descent. We have a Kamala Harris. It's just all these little, and again, sorry guys, I should be talking about guys as well, but Sendil Ramamurthy. He's an actor who was in this TV show, The Heroes, that I used to follow. But I'm saying that these little waves, representation, and something like what we are doing right now, it's just educating people, helping people change their perceptions. I feel that's going to go a long way. Maybe not immediately we'll see the effects, but at least we've got some ripples.
yes, Kamala Harris is African American.
Things will definitely.
Yes, okay, yeah, true.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, go ahead,
Okay.
Ketan.
Actually, my next question for you, apart from casual dating and all that stuff, do you always date people with the mindset of, let's say, getting married? Like this thing is very common in Indian background. Like if you are going for a date, the first thing a girl looks for whether I can settle with this guy or not, right? This thought always runs in back of the mind. Does it happen with you also or not?
You want to answer first, Priya?
Okay. I think, okay, you're right. Okay, I'll answer first. For me, that's definitely the case. I think it's immediately like first date, I may not know, but I would want something to lead up to that. Because otherwise, I personally feel that we would be wasting each other's time. And if like we initially we were talking about the concept of casual dating. If it's specified from both parties, then it's okay. But if both parties know that it's leading to something, I don't know. I personally go with that intention. And that's not necessarily to do with the fact that, say, now I'm in my 30s and I'm looking for that. But I have always been like that. Even in my early 20s, anybody that I would date, it was always with an intention. So, go ahead, Aishwarya.
I agree to Priya's point. I feel like, well, at least, for me personally, I started dating when I was 20. So when I was 20, being very honest, I wasn't really thinking so much about like getting married and that kind of situation. So I think it really depends on the stage of life that you're in. I think maybe when you're a teenager, when you're in your early 20s, I think at that point in time, you're kind of just experimenting and trying to figure out what do you actually want in a life partner. So I think eventually you come to a point where like you're serious about actually finding your life partner. And at that point in time, yeah, I think all girls have the mindset of like, can I actually settle down with this guy? Is he going to be like supportive of me? Will he actually be like a long-term relationship? All that kind of stuff is things that kind of like come to your mind. So I think it really depends on the stage of life that you're in.
Okay.